Hello and welcome to our all-inclusive Facebook Live broadcast from Urban Saints on shared interest groups or age groups. What's better for our children's work in our churches? I'm joined by a special guest this time, Claire Dexter, who is the Children's and Families Pastor at HCC, Hitchin Christian Centre.
That's right, from Thursday.
And it's going to be great to have a conversation with Claire about this in a little while, because at HCC they've been grappling with this question themselves, which works best for them. But let's give a bit of an introduction to that question first. What works best, age groups or shared interest groups within our churches? Now, sometimes we do things because we've always done them that way. Sometimes we do things that maybe don't make the most sense. And the more that we've been thinking about this question, the more we've been just understanding that maybe the way that we do children's work right now isn't always, for every church and for every children's group, the best way of doing it. Just imagine on Sunday when you went to church, if the first thing that you were asked was how old you are, and based on that answer you were fed off in a particular direction to a particular group for that Sunday morning. Maybe you came with somebody else and they were sent in a different direction because they were a little bit older or a little bit younger than you. We don't do that for our adult congregations, but that's exactly what we do for our children, isn't it? We split them up into under threes, fours to fives, and all the way through the different age groups, and rigorously move children up from one age group to the next. But are there other ways that we could separate up our children's work that might be more creative, more interesting for them, more effective as we help them to engage with whatever it is that we're looking at that particular week? A Bible story, a theme, whatever that might be. And there's a lot of thinking at the moment about dividing up children's work by interest groups instead. So maybe having a storytelling group. A group where the story, the big Bible story, is unpacked and looked at through really creative storytelling, maybe through drama, and really engaging with children that respond well to story in that way. Or maybe there's a creative group, a group where the children are able to make things, make craft, or through art or through Lego, and are creating the things that they're hearing about that we're sharing with them from the story. A great example I saw a little while ago was of the Temple of Jerusalem. And a bunch of children had been making the Temple of Jerusalem out of Lego, helped them to learn about the temple itself and all that went on in the temple. In their case, the high priest was played by Darth Vader, but we'll give them a bit of artistic license for that. They were able to engage with and learn from that much better than somebody just talking to them about it. Or maybe there's a bunch of children that you're working with who are great at music. Maybe they play instruments, maybe they sing, maybe they're great at making up songs, and you could have a worship group that just grappled again with the themes of the Bible and expressed that through worship, through song, through rap, through different ways of creatively using those talents that the children have. Or maybe even a tech group for the children who really enjoy engaging with technology. Again, heard a terrific story of a bunch of children who were learning about when the Israelites crossed over into the Promised Land, and they arrived at Jericho. And on arriving at Jericho, of course, they marched around it 7 times and blew their trumpets, and Jericho was demolished. And they brought all that to life through Minecraft. And it was a terrific medium for them to be able to use the skills they've got, the enthusiasm and excitement they have for that technology, and to draw that in to the way in which they were able to learn and develop. So thinking about different ways of engaging, different zones, different activity areas across the whole age range of our children's work could be a different way of being able to actively engage and enthuse the the children and young people that you're working with. Now, what would be great would be to hear from a church that have done this and have got some experience of what this has looked like. And so Claire from HCC has, with the rest of the team at Hitchin Christian Centre, been on that journey, haven't you? And explored that, and have now been able to bring that into what you do in your children's work each week at HCC. Yeah. So, just to sort of help everybody that might be thinking about this as a possible way forward, what was the trigger that made you think, actually, we need to change the way in which we do children's work, that set you off in this direction?
Yeah. Well, firstly, let me just say thanks for having me. And I think this is such an exciting concept, and I'm really excited to be talking about it. I feel really passionate about children being able to access what we're learning about through all sorts of styles and materials and all sorts of things that we've got going on. So I suppose really the trigger for us as a team to think about this was, we were starting to notice that some of our children were, and actually maybe some of the team, if we're really honest, we're starting to just feel a little bit disengaged, and some of the things that we were doing were starting to feel a bit kind of tired. So we decided to have a think about, is there another way of doing this, and is there a way of bringing in something fresh and exciting to really start to re-engage the children and capture their attention, really. And I came across this blog that you'd written, which I thought was amazing and brilliant, and I took it to our previous children's and families worker, and she was so excited by it, and so we decided to take it to our leadership team, and yeah, that was really the trigger.
And that was the trigger that set you off in that direction.
Yeah.
And so once everybody had said, yeah, let's give this a try, I guess you then had the challenge of how that was going to be brought into the children's work, how you're going to trial it or bring the rest of your team along on that journey too. So what were the next steps that you took once you got the okay to give it a go?
So the very first step was that I believe our children's worker then took it to the leadership team, because it was obviously really important to have everybody on board with the vision. They were really excited about it, really keen to give it a go, which was great. So then we took it to the children's work team and gave the children's team an opportunity, I suppose, to hear the vision and to have some feedback and comments and things. And it was really well received. Everybody was really excited. I think everybody was really excited. I'm sure there were some comments and feedback. But generally, the general gist was that it was really a really exciting concept, and that we were up for giving it a go. We also spoke to the children about it, so we gave them an opportunity for their voices to be heard, which is really important. And then we communicated with the parents as well. And then once we'd done all of our communicating and talking about it, then we felt it was important to do 2 trial sessions, just to really kind of iron out any problems that might come up, and make sure that we've got everything running smoothly before we really launched it. So that was the process.
And in those 2 trial sessions that you ran, how did that go? What went well? Were there any things that were a surprise to you, or things that you found harder to work through?
Yeah, I think generally they went well. I think some of the it's a journey, so we're always on a journey with these things, but generally the feedback has been really positive. The children have loved it. You can see it. There's a noticeable change in how engaged the children are, and the leaders are really inspired and really enjoy being part of the children's work. There's always going to be challenges with these things, and any sort of transition brings up challenges. I think it's been a challenge for us to get our heads around moving from always having to have an end product, so we don't always have to have something that the children actually physically take home. It might be that we've done Let's Build and they've made an amazing model out of Lego, but actually they don't take that home necessarily, but the process that they've gone through and the learning that they've gone through in that morning is incredible, and they've had a great time and learnt about God, but maybe they don't take that home. So that's been something that we've had to get our heads around a little bit. Generally it's been really good. Yeah.
And you said that the children themselves, when you first announced that this was going to change, were really excited about it, and that they've really enjoyed and responded well to the introduction of this. How have you seen them working together, obviously across a wider age range, but around their particular activity that they're working on? Has that gone well?
Yeah, so it's great to see, really, because and actually what's really interesting is I wondered whether we might get uneven sort of ratios in our groups, but actually they've always sort of quite naturally divided into quite natural sized groups, which has been nice. And it's great to see the children working together. We have so in this particular age group that we work with, we've got the 5s to 11s, and they work well together. The 5-year-olds are working with, sometimes working with the 11-year-olds. What's really nice as well is that when they're working together, so they might be doing create zone or let's build zone, they're working in little groups sometimes, so they're able to make friendships alongside their learning at the same time, which is lovely to see. So yeah, they work well together, and they really enjoy it, and it's nice because I guess there's like a natural buddying system that happens. They naturally buddy up, and the younger ones help the older ones, and they learn together, so it's really nice. And
as they learn together, and as that buddying happens, I guess that's helpful also for any children that you've got with any additional needs that need a bit of extra support to engage with the programme and understand what's happening and what's expected of them.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got natural buddies in their groups, and also hopefully that it removes some of the barriers for them to access what we're learning about, because if some children with additional needs have got a particular interest in Lego, then we've got a Lego zone set up for them, or they might have a particular interest in something, and there's nothing to say that if an interest within the group arrived, maybe we could even create an extra zone, or based on the interests of those children that we've got at the time as well. So
and I know we were sort of talking earlier about another zone that you were thinking of adding into the mix of things, so tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so at the moment we generally have a create zone, so children can respond and learn. So we all have the Bible teaching together, and then we go into our zones, and we have a create zone where there's usually a bunch of materials available to them, and they can respond however they like. So for example, on Sunday we were learning about the Old Testament and the New Testament and the promises of God, and so we had some children drawing rainbows, some children drawing crosses, really kind of interpreting the story however it meant for them. And we also usually have a build zone, a let's build zone, which usually is Lego, but we try and mix it up a little bit. We've done paper aeroplanes and things before for various reasons. And then so now we're thinking about introducing a third zone as well. We're at the early stages of this. We only started this in September, so we're still growing and learning as well. So we're thinking of doing a drama or a move. Well, actually, we might call it movement zone.
Yeah.
Which would be perhaps drama or games or something where to get ourselves moving. We have a lot of energy in our children's work, so getting the children moving is great as well, and to use that energy to learn is great.
Brilliant. And so on your journey that you've been on at HCC, is there sort of one tip that you would give that you've learned along the process of introducing this new approach to children's work that you would offer to anybody that's thinking of doing this in their own church setting?
Yeah, I think the two top tips. Can I have allowed two?
You can have two. Yeah.
I think the first one would be to make sure that the communication happens, and that everybody or that the leadership team in the church are on board with the vision. I think that's really important, and to make sure that the vision has been communicated well. And my our second tip, I think, would be to definitely do some trial runs first before going into a full-on launch. And that really helped us to, just see what was working, what wasn't working, and test the water a bit, and then to go into a launch and actually make the transition.
And I guess that trial run, could be as you did, picking a couple of Sunday mornings and running it there, or it could be a kids club, a holiday club, that sort of thing. Picking that as an opportunity to work in this way, and then draw that into the Sunday sessions after that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be really good.
For us, we did our trial sessions in the summer holidays. We did 2. And then we launched in September, but
brilliant.
It's got to work for the setting that you're
absolutely. No, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Excellent. What about? We work across all children and young people. There are a variety of children that we're engaged with in all of our settings that have additional needs or disabilities of various kinds. I guess there's a question there about how we can make this work effectively across all of the children and young people we're working with, isn't there? And perhaps it's through making sure that we understand what the really sort of favourite things are that those children love to do. Because every child, no matter how profound their additional needs or disabilities are, will have favourite things.
Yeah, exactly.
And if we can link some of that into one of the zones that we're working with, broaden that zone out so that it really sort of engages with the things that child is able to do and enjoys doing, then that suggests itself as a good way of us being able to make sure that this approach reaches everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. We're always aiming to be as inclusive as possible, and I think the really exciting thing about this concept and this idea is that it lends itself to or it's sort of about creating a space for children to really respond in a way that suits them, and hopefully breaking down as many barriers and as possible to God's word, and giving as many opportunities for children to respond and learn about God. So absolutely, just finding out their interests and how being creative. It's about thinking outside the box, isn't it? And how can we use that to to break down the barriers to learning about God's word.
Learning about God. And I think we all recognise that every child can and does have the ability to respond to the promptings of the Holy Spirit, to be able to engage with God in that way, and so us creating that environment through the things they enjoy and are able to do, just helps that process.
And it might mean some extra communication with parents, perhaps. How does having a conversation about what the child's enjoying at home, and building a bridge between church and home to make sure that we're really doing the absolute best by the children.
That's really good. And so with that in mind, Claire, there's another part of what you do in the way that you connect with urban saints that's certainly relevant to that conversation we've just been having. So tell us a little bit more about All Inclusive to You.
So with All Inclusive to You, the aim really, I suppose, is to just be an extra resource to churches. So we already have All Inclusive seminars that are led by you, which is amazing. But All Inclusive to You, I suppose, is a more bespoke service and an extra resource that we can offer. So it's about one of us. So I'm on the team, Mark's on the team, and we've got some other amazing volunteers on the team. Can come into your church, into your children's work settings, and just really kind of get alongside you and see what you're doing, and see whether there's anything else that might support you in making what you're doing more accessible, even more accessible, and even more exciting for children with additional needs. Really, it's about getting alongside and just seeing if there's anything else that we can offer.
Brilliant. thank you
Yeah.
for that, and thank you for being with us today and for all that you shared about the journey that you're on at HCC and the great stuff that you're seeing happening as a result of those changes to the way that children's work is happening. Really great to hear your views and thoughts and experience on that.
Yeah.
Great to have you with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And do have a look at the article that we've written about this. It gives a bit more information about the sort of things you could think about, different zones, different activity areas that you could think about that maybe you could try in your church. But think about the children that you're working with and the things that they love to do, the things that interest them, and see if you can build some activity zones around that could just change the way in which children's work works for you. Do join us for future all-inclusive Facebook Live broadcasts, and if you're catching up on this a bit later, then there are other Facebook Live broadcasts that we've done that you can also look at that give you some tips and ideas on ways to be more inclusive, to be more accessible, to create belonging for all the children and young people that you're working with. And also have a look at the resources and information that's on our website, urbansaints.org/additional needs, where you'll find loads more information and resources and help to help you on your journey to be more all-inclusive in the things that you do in your children's and youth work. Thanks for joining us today.
Bye.